I want my chips with the dip. That's all I know. I don't want my chips plain. I want my chips with the dip. So bring them this. You see what my hat says? Not finals, not Eastern Conference, not nice try, or see you next year. Champions. Let's go. Talk.
That's who did I steal from? Price tags on making the world feel some. They don't have enough to satisfy a real one.
Logical Raptors Fanatic.
Shoot trying to miss. Like every shot
Logical Raptors Fanatic.
try to make it, so I was gonna act surprised.
Logical Raptors Fanatic.
Love the game of basketball. I mean, it's just more question you have to ask me in order for me to tell you about.
Logical Raptors Fanatic.
I just can't give you a whole spiel. I don't even know where you're sitting at.
Salute, real ones. Project Truth Always. Mike G back here with Logical Raptors Fanatic. And today we're continuing with our Raptors end of season series, the 2022-2023 season. And we have Jakob Poeltl and Scottie Barnes. To start off, Jakob Poeltl doesn't say much about like his role in the team in his exit interview, but he does present a great thought, and it really is on point of what the main objective even of this series is. And we'll go through that quick, but then it's going to be mostly Scottie talking about his role growth, because he had a lot to say on that aspect, and he's a lot younger and there's a lot more room to grow, and there's a couple more issues, right? And we're going to talk about issues with both of them, with the shooting a little bit more, and because they are most likely staying. So we'll talk about role growth as well. So to kick it off, we're going to start off with Poeltl, and he's talking about what this team needs to get to the next level.
It's tough for me to say. Like, I've only been in this environment for a couple months. I feel like in general we have a really confident group. I think we're all aware of where we can be. I think we're just at times we're like a small step behind. Like, it seems like a tiny adjustment that we need to make. I feel like we have everything we need. We're not quite there, and it's about figuring out what that is to like put us in a spot where we are we're really good on a consistent level, you know what I mean? But what those adjustments are, like it's like I said, it's not always easy to figure out. It might be like a small change in mindset here. It might be a small tactical change. I don't know. Like I can't tell you that. Like, but it's about figuring that out to become a winning team, like a really winning team.
So there, Poeltl is kind of like talking about consistency, and I think what consistency is based on with this kind of team, with the passers, especially with Scottie and Poeltl, the passing element needs chemistry. You need like chemistry between the guys you're passing to and the guys making the pass, right? So I think creating a more structured system might be the answer, but even I don't really know. Even Poeltl doesn't know. No one really knows other than the guys at the top with kind of all the info, and they're able to look down and see things from a farther lens but a closer eye as well, right? So I think he's going to expand on things a little bit more, but we're going to go into more of what his role is after that, right?
I mean, it's not really about my patience. I feel like I got plenty of patience for that. That's not really a problem. I'm trying to figure out what we need for us to get there. And yeah, I don't know. I keep in my mind. I keep coming back to consistency, which at times is out of our hands as well, with like injuries and like the team kind of like so myself adding a new piece to it, like stuff like that. Yeah, but I don't think my patience is like an issue there. Like I want to make it work.
So there, I think Poeltl doubles down on the consistency, but he also talks about how him coming in kind of changed things, and the injuries and the inconsistency from that, the mitigating factors of the season, right? And we have to take those into account, right? But also Poeltl now, like, he is here, and it sounds like he wants to stay with us going forward. So I think obviously one key skill is start to lock down that free throw. And I think even though he's at an older age, I think we can really just help him get into a rhythm and find that like touch, I think, because we did help Chris Boucher improve his free throws drastically. And I think free throws then turn into mid-range and then turn into 3-point, and like it can evolve from there, but it has to start with the free throws. And I think that's obviously a huge key going into this summer, and we haven't even seen the full extent of Poeltl's skills and really seen the issues with them. He hasn't been fully tested with us yet. I think we're still in the discovery mode of discovering the new things that we can do with a center, and him specifically, right? But ultimately, it's going to be a little bit short on role growth because I think we haven't fully assessed everything yet. But now to move on to Scottie, and let's start off with how Scottie sees the season this year and how it went.
Of course, I would say I expected more out of myself and us as a team. It was cut short. We didn't make the playoffs. That was obviously one of our goals that we didn't make. So that just tells how our season went. A lot of ups and downs. Saw a lot of good things, but just a lot of things just didn't go well.
I guess we'll start at the beginning of the season, and I keyed in on, like I'm keying on this series, but I didn't do it with like videos and stuff. I did it on my own. I keyed in on the intro to the season presser, and I listened to what Nick was planning with different guys and whatnot, and I believe that the plan was initially to run Scottie Barnes similar to like a Ben Simmons at point guard, have Fred more off ball, and have him more focusing on defense. Because we seen in that first week it was starting to come into like its own a bit, and Fred was getting tons of steals off the point guard of really just hounding the point guard, and then he was taking less responsibility for the offense and letting things run as is. But I think as the season went on and injuries piled up and the spacing around that whole system fell apart a little bit, but we found out that without Scottie having his 3-ball in check, they're not going to respect him like they do Ben Simmons, which creates issues with him at point guard. So I think all the stuff that we did at the start before the season, like Nick's planning X and O's and all the things that people were studying, was geared to one system, but then kind of like the slip on the floor, and then we had to start changing things on the fly, right? And he even said before the season started, he had a different plan for the defense, and he was going to try something different because he's seen that it didn't quite work at times without Precious in there. And to start the 5 best guys in a sense of Gary Trent and whatnot instead of Precious to help the spacing, right? Because we take away Precious and that creates defensive issues, and we add spacing and like one from one place to give to another, and that creates issues, right? So I think that's what the whole thing in the season was. It was a little bit more of shuffling around, and people didn't understand their roles for the longest time because we were trying to fit where Scottie fit in. We played him at center for the rest of the first half, right, till Poeltl came. And then that changed again. So you can see what Poeltl was saying with guys in and out from injury and new guys coming in, but even Scottie. But I think he grew a lot from this kind of transitioning in these different spots. Obviously, that's on Nick Nurse and his failure of like really sussing out Scottie's skills a little bit more. I think he assumed that the 3-ball would be okay because his spot-up shooting looked great during his first rookie season, where he was only asked to do what he was best at. But let's get more of Scottie's kind of estimations on things, on where he's at growth-wise.
Not really a certain number. Just gotta keep working. Like I said, a lot of skill work and just keep working on my craft. Being able to take those catch and shoots, that's mostly primarily opens. I feel like that expands your game. And then once that starts falling, everything else opens up. Being able to go to the basket and then making those counter moves off that. It's just going. And being able to get to the free throw line, I feel like that's another thing. Those scores, they're able to get to the free throw line. That's another big step.
So clearly Scottie understands that part I was just mentioning about the 3-ball and stuff, but he's going to go into a little bit more of a mindset talk and talking counters and his conditioning for defense, and we're going to get into that a little bit more.
Be able to not settle for things, but be able to try to get to the rim, and if the rim's not open, you got to be able to find a counter out of it. I feel like that's the main thing out of that. Say first year, my mindset was just trying to go to the rim, but I feel like this year I was finding counters out of it and be able to make different moves out of it.
So there he's talking about how his growth and experience in these different roles elevated his counters, and he's going to get more specific in the next clip. But I think counters are just part of experience. It's a part of the IQ of the game. You learn it over time, you watch film, you experiment with your own game, you try different things against different guys, and you see the results. And he's going to kind of go into that now.
I would say just like when I get post-ups and there's probably someone coming from the low side as a big or guards are digging at the same time, and it's just you just got to be able to adjust to that and be able to figure that out. I go left and I spin. Someone's coming to double, so you just got to be able to prepare for that as a player. Take that next step in how you got to be able to make the right plays out of it or be able to score out of it. So one of the two options, be able to play make or be able to score out of it and turn that into a weakness that a team can't do.
There he gives a clear example, and he understands what he's trying to do and his intent. I talk about intent a lot because intent matters in what these guys are trying to do, what they're trying to accomplish, and what options they have available to them. With more skills, more options. So I think as Scottie grows, he's going to grow into his skills a bit more and understand what moves he needs to put on different guys. But right now, he's kind of just trying to test whatever he can, and it's slowly going to define how his game is. And I think there's some really interesting stuff he says about his off-season growth, and we're going to get into that now.
Really just keep working on everything. Ball handling, shooting, skill work, a lot of skill work, conditioning, defense, just keep working on my body, just trying to get stronger. So really primarily everything. I'd say probably just change up my conditioning wise and just try to get a lot of conditioning in. I feel like I think I probably need a different level of conditioning for the way I want to play. I feel like I play very hard on the defensive end, so I feel like it'll take a different level of conditioning that I really work on this summer.
So there he talks about how he's going to work on everything, but something that he wants to personally work on is his conditioning for defense. He feels the game he wants to play, and it's not just Nick Nurse pushing them on defensive side. He really likes to play active defense and really move around and really get in plays and stuff. And he's saying for his activity level, and he continues on a little bit more, but he needs a better conditioning for the amount of running he wants to do.
I don't really feel the pressure, but I think I put a lot of pressure on myself already. Look for it in socials and other people. I feel like my highest expectation is for myself. So I feel like I put a lot of thinking into what I really want to become and what I really want to be. And I feel like that's how I really look at the things and how I see myself as a player. I know how I want to get better, and I just want to constantly keep trying to develop in each and every single way where I just want to constantly get better, and I want to make it to the top of the league and be one of those better players in the league. So it's just going to take a different level of a mindset, of work. So those are things that you just got to put into. I put a lot of pressure on myself to get better, but I don't really look at the outside noise, as you could say.
So there, Scottie's talking about pressure. So he doesn't feel pressured to have all these things happen for him by anyone but himself. He has high self-accountability, and he wants to succeed and be great. And that's what it takes, an internal drive. No matter what the coach does or whoever on the other team or your own teammates, whatever they do, it doesn't matter in a sense of you understanding the game and continuing to grow in that process. And the pressure, I can tell he doesn't feel that pressure in a sense because he really turns up in pressurized moments. It's like he plays without that kind of weight in those moments, and I really like that about him, and I think that's kind of the skill that's the creme de la creme in a sense, and that will build into a great player. People have certain notions about chemistry with him and Nick Nurse and Fred VanVleet, so let's hear him discuss how he felt about Nick.
I love Nick. He allows us to play freely. Gives us that freedom to be able to, if we want to drive to the basket, go to the basket, post up. He loves when we post up and things like that. He gives us a lot of freedom out there on the floor. I love Nick. I guess we'll see what happens.
So just something short and simple, and talking about how he coached, and he likes the kind of rope that Nick gave him to kind of work on his decision making within the game itself and trying to plan around that. But I think it definitely, that's not a system that works with multiple young guys on same lineups, because they don't know how to read how the other young guy's doing something, with where a vet can kind of read what the younger guy's going to do and then adjust off that. So I think there has to be a mix of like higher caliber vets and younger guys, but younger guys that are up to a certain skill though too, for it to work in Nick's system. And I think ultimately that's just the freedom was the kind of thing that hurt the system in a sense. So it's like players really like the freedom, but it hurt our consistency. So obviously Nick's gone now, and we're going to see how a new coach comes in and uses the new guys and what kind of system he runs. But there will be remnants of a lot of similar plays and different things that the players like to do, because they all are part of the game planning as well, and what they like does weigh into different things, right? And obviously now we're going to get on to the VanVleet part, where people think it's an issue that VanVleet wants to be point guard, but Scottie should be point guard, and VanVleet won't let go of that. But I don't think that's the case, because with the new NBA, you need, like, both guards need to have playmaking skills and ability to play off ball. That's what really makes a guard really intangible and great. How effective are they without the ball, and how effective are they with the ball? And obviously, Fred VanVleet's more effective without the ball. So we want to make a new ball handler to increase his production. And that fits with the future vision. So obviously, when he moves off ball more, it works, right? So I think ultimately we do have to be patient. Like Poeltl said, I have no issues with being patient, because it is gonna take over years, like learning those counters and doing all those things. But I think Fred VanVleet is someone that can really help him do that. And this next question is directly asking that.
So I like playing with Fred. Fred, he's able to control the team when we're all out there on the floor with him. Be able to put people in the right spots, but it's easy playing with Fred. He's someone that gets off the ball, and he's someone that can be on the ball and still do so many good things on the floor. I don't really know. I feel like we're pretty solid.
So there he's talking about how Fred makes it easy for him. And I think it's just Fred helping him on certain plays and getting guys in order, like he said. But that's part of the PG's job, and he has to learn how to have that skill over time. He sees Fred can do it, but he needs to learn how to do that himself, right? And he can see that. And I think he understands that he has one thing that Scottie doesn't at this moment, and it's kind of the know how to really run the PG spot, where Scottie might see like he's a PG in the future, he's gonna need this skill. So I think it's just a little bit of the outside people not really seeing the everyday interactions and knowing that there is no kind of real competition. He's a second year player. He's not really fully capable of running that spot. So I don't think there really is that demand to take that spot at the moment, right? So the friction, I think, comes from everyone like paying attention to different things, and that's usually the coach's job to keep people like in the game and focused, right? And if a player has to be doing it, it creates waves within the way they play and some of the different dynamics. And I think just a head coach manning that a little bit harder is definitely would fix a lot of the inner issues that people might see or have happened, right? But other than that, I think going forward, it looks bright for Scottie, right? So I think Poeltl and Scottie are definitely going to be here. So I'll end it off there. Housekeeping. So I just want to always start off by saluting the real ones and thanking them for the likes, the comments, the subs, the feedback. All that great stuff really makes things go. But I also want to salute out Raptors Freak Nation and Raptors Freak Lex, 9:30 a.m. Eastern every day, always bringing the great Raptors content. And just gonna end it there. Salute the real ones. Project Truth always. Logical Raptors. Fanatic out. Mike G. Mike G.
Oh man, I love my team. Man, I love my team. I would die for them.
Not just cause I want to, cause I got to. Put the squad on your back, did the impossible. It's only logical, it's fitted from the heart.
Problems hit the gym, they all